really buy into the program.
All right. You guys ready to get going?
Good.
Yep.
All right. Welcome back to Two Homers and a Realist. We have just concluded the Kent State game, and we got a full house here, as well as one of us coming in via satellite connection. So let's go around the room. This is Steve.
It's Connor.
Christian. Lucas.
And Jay. Jay is our satellite connect right now.
Are you there, Jay? Jay.
Jay.
Yeah, you. Are you there?
I said Jay.
All right, Jay's there.
Damn COVID.
Well, let's just go around the room and see. I was at the game tonight. I went to the football game.
I was at the game.
I was there.
Yeah, I was there. Also, live in person.
Jay, were you at the game?
Jay was not at the game due to healthcare reasons.
Healthcare reasons. You were caring for people that needed healthcare. Okay, well,
no,
that's
I was
good.
protecting others.
Okay, well, that's good. Speaking of protection, there was some protecting of the palace that looked like it wasn't going to happen tonight for a while, but OU pulled it out against Kent State, winning 33-3. Not a pretty victory, but also not as ugly as we thought it might be as the game wore on in the first half. So let's go around the room and talk about our thoughts of what we saw tonight, what we experienced. Who wants to lead it off? Who had some strong feelings?
Let's hear from the realist first.
Well, when you talk about protecting, I think our defense protected the offense the first half because they were horrific. And the non-protecting was the offensive line because they looked like complete trash, not being able. They had 7 yards of rushing in the first half because was there a sack in the first half? Did Gabriel get sacked in the first half?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
once.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
So that takes a little bit off of it, but I mean, not even be able to have 10 yards of rushing in the first half against a MAC team that was good last year, but shouldn't be on the same level as the Oklahoma Sooners. I don't know if it's Bill Bedenbaugh. I don't know if it's missing Wanye Morris. I did notice Harrison was playing back at left tackle today, but it didn't seem to work, at least in the first half, and the play calling was suspect.
Yeah, I mean we averaged 3.7 yards a carry tonight. Not great. I mean it was uncomfortable, right? I mean it was that first quarter felt very. The defense was strong. I mean again, you go back to that word protection, but it's just a weird night. I mean getting the ball back and not having a sense of, dominance that I think we felt a couple times last week. Eric Gray, again, we'll talk about it later, I'm sure, but not being the guy that you think he's going to be, just explosive, wanting to see him make those plays that weren't there. But I go back to that. I mean, we got outrushed, given the number of attempts were a little bit skewed, but we got outrushed by 30 yards tonight. So 164 yards for Kent State, 134 yards for us. Felt like a lot less, in my opinion. But yeah, it was just a weird. I don't know. I feel.
What'd you think, Christian?
Yeah, to me, I mean, tale of two halves, really. First half was awful, like Lucas said. I mean, there were times where, I was literally just looking at Connor telling him we look awful. Not just, we're out of sorts, we haven't figured it out, we haven't opened up the playbook. We looked bad. There were times that we looked actually bad. Defense was actually pretty stout in the first quarter, I will say. I feel bad for them, honestly, that the offense could not hold the ball for more than, I think our first drive was a 3-and-out, and the next drive was a 4-and-out. We got the one first down on first down, and then we went a 3-and-out after that. So the offense did not help the defense out at all, but the defense looked solid. Offense looked completely all out of sorts. Levy's play calling is poor so far, at least in the first half. Wide receivers were I mentioned it last week, I just don't think they're being used correctly. We saw a little bit of improvement with Mims in the second half, but just a lot of worries on offense for me currently.
Jay, what do you think?
The first half was complete trash. There's no other way to say it. I don't even know what I was watching, who I was watching. It was just an abomination on all levels. If you had asked me currently at the time, I would tell you that we're not going to win another game the entire season based off the first half offense from this football game. Defense is actually still being very base. They're doing really well. We added a couple of blitzes tonight, but in general, I still think we're very vanilla on defense, and to hold a team to this few points is actually spectacular, considering the offense not moving the ball whatsoever. I wish I could have been in the locker room at halftime to hear exactly what was said, because there would have been a lot of bleeps in that halftime locker room, is my guess.
I would guess so too. I think it was a pretty stellar turnaround. So I would say, rounding out everyone's comments, I would like to just talk about how great the game ended. And also talk about the struggles that we had early on and the notes that I made during that really epically awful first half. It wasn't just that it was so bad, it was just so mysteriously weird. On a weird Saturday when a lot of weird things are happening and a lot of teams are losing that you wouldn't think are going to lose, to the teams they're losing to, we were going out and just looked so, it was like it was a practice session where you weren't actually going through all the motions and finishing out drives. It was so strange.
Honest to God, it's the worst half of football I've ever watched.
It's up there. I don't know. Let
know.
me introduce you to a man named John Blake. We saw some bad football back then, but
7 yards.
Was bad football.
You think there was a John Blake? You think there was a John Blake team that had 18 rushes for 7 yards?
You would be surprised how bad some of those John Blake teams performed in certain halves. Absolutely. I mean, we didn't ever go to punt the ball and didn't have a punter. But no, it was awful. It was totally bad. I would even say the defense looked pretty bad at times, although I do think they did pretty well keeping us in the game very nicely. I was wondering, were they introducing more things, some complexity into it? They seem to be jumping and moving around a lot and switching a lot. I noticed a lot of defensive backs as well trying to move and reposition themselves, so I didn't know if they were introducing more complexity both offensively and defensively, and maybe that explains a little bit of how bad it was, that people weren't in the right positions, didn't know what to do, just basic blocking on offensive line wasn't there. It did seem like, speaking of play selection, that we were running the ball up the middle stubbornly, as if for sure that was going to work over and over again, and it never did in the first half.
Especially on first and second down.
Yeah.
It seemed like the first 2 or 3 series, it was run it on first down, run on second down, and then see if you can pull something off on 3rd and 6.
Yeah.
My biggest 2 talking points for the first half were indecisiveness, lack of identity goes along with that, and then all of that ties into complementary football. We were talking about that last week. Venables talked about it in the press conference, and whatever the coach speak might happen to be, complementary football is very important. And the defense was not getting complementary football out of the offense tonight in the first half. And it is a tribute to them that they actually did as well as they did to keep Kent State to 3 points and a missed field goal. So could have been 6 points. But they definitely weren't complementing what we're trying to accomplish in any way, making the job of the defense pretty difficult. But all that said, in the second half, they came out brilliantly. Yeah. They looked stellar, and really, the last drive of the first half was really good. The end of it set the tone. We saw a mistake by Weiss of not getting out of bounds, but then we kept just going to what was working. Those out routes, Mims twice in a row. It was a great job setting up the deep ball to get the touchdown, and that really did set the tone. It looked like they got serious at that point, and I'm sure that transitioned into the locker room, where the talk was a lot about, now you've been slapped in the face. You've got to get serious about what you're doing. You've got to take some ownership and just get focused. It was like they just were sleepwalking through the first half, and they came out in that third quarter, and it was absolutely stellar. And it wasn't like anything fell in their lap. They seemed to earn every down both offensively and defensively. So I was really impressed by that. If I'm going to be an optimist about it, I'm going to say that went the way you'd want it to go. You'd want a win, an ugly win, to be 33-0. We used to talk about ugly wins being what?
33-3.
Oh, 33-3. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You'd want an ugly win. We talk about ugly wins being like 33-26.
Yeah.
This was
uncomfortable
into the fourth quarter.
Tulane, yeah.
Yeah. This was a comfortable ugly win with a lot to work on. No reason to think there's any rat poison going on. Everybody on that field and everyone in that locker room has every reason to believe they need to prepare hard and have a lot more work in front of them. So I think they have a lot to build on, and yet they still performed really well, ended solidly, left a few points on the field in the second half that they could have had with a drop ball by Willis and a few other things. So all in all, it was great in the second half.
Do you think the first half was player effort, player execution, or the coaches trying to be cute?
I think it might have been, my guess would be, I want to hear everyone's views, but my guess would be more player execution, coaches being cute. I don't really know if I'd say players just not being ready or something, whatever you started with.
I'm not at all at a point to question effort at this point, right? So, I mean, I think that first half you see maybe some stuff that you're like, maybe they were testing the waters and some stuff, but man, it just wasn't working. We went to the well too many times without something working, I think.
Yeah.
And then you get to that last drive of that first half, and it's like, man, finally, like we're taking what they're giving us, right? Like you're running little out routes. You're running 7-yard routes that are getting you positive forward yardage, as opposed to what we saw a lot of before this. Shots down the field that aren't having high percentage completion rates or anything like that. I mean, I go back to the stats again. You look at, which obviously Mims, amazing to see Mims finally break out, right? Everyone's been waiting. Everyone's been talking about it. 163 yards tonight on 7 receptions. Phenomenal job. Next closest receiver had 3 receptions for 37 yards, which is Theo Weiss. But nonetheless, you got a few guys in the 30s, a couple guys in the 20s.
And a great effort by Stoops on that touchdown.
Yeah.
A phenomenal touchdown.
I think you have the talent at those positions to be able to say, look, you may have 1 or 2 guys that are going to be able to take it downfield for you. We don't have to do that, especially with what our defense was doing tonight. I mean, they're stifling it.
Against a talented Kent State team with athletes.
Yeah.
Not
The offense.
defensively.
You don't think so? You don't think it's a talented? They went to the championship of their
Of the MAC.
conference last year.
Yeah.
We're not
They're
talking
not
about
It's
a
not the
defensively
Sun
slack
Belt.
team.
It's the MAC.
Yeah, we're not talking
The
about a
Sun Belt's
slack
proven
team.
that they can go in and dominate
Exactly.
some teams. But the MAC, I mean, I'm a fan of MACtion, but
Where would the Kent State have finished last year if they're that good in the Big 12? They'd be in the top third.
They're still going to be competing for their conference this year. So.
Yeah. So don't write them off. They're a talented team. Like my poll that I created, they will be our toughest non-conference opponent.
And what'll be funny is when they go to Georgia in a couple weeks, and that you'll get a good gauge.
yeah, okay.
Right? You'll get a good
Yep.
gauge.
I mean, they lost by, what was the Washington score?
42 to 20.
42 to 20.
Something like this.
Yeah.
And they're not any good.
How could you give 20 points? How could you give 20 points after that team? You know, we didn't.
This is really strange, but I just got a late delivery from the milkman, and Jaleel Farouk's face is on the carton.
Because he's missing.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
where the hell is this guy?
Yeah, that's a good
All
question.
freaking preseason, all everyone talked about was how Jaleel Farouk was a freak and how well he did in the bowl game. What does he have, 1 catch in 2 games?
So my take on the offense, I talked to Connor about it a lot. Either the play calling in the first half is awful. And I don't know if that's what it is, but I told Connor multiple times, no wide receivers are open. Gabriel it's not like he had all day, but he had enough time where he could at least make, 1 to 2 solid reads and then check down. No one is open at all. And I don't know if that's play calling or if we just don't have the receivers out there that are going to find separation. And I noticed in the second half, decently early, they were starting to mix in guys. Gibson got in pretty early in the third quarter. They just started mixing receivers in.
They basically said your job is up for grabs.
Yeah, so I don't know if it was third quarter, they said open up the playbook a little bit, or if they said, hey, the receiver spots are open besides Mims. Let's go see who wants it the most and who's going to play the hardest. But the receiving core is just not there, and I don't know if it's simple route running that we're calling right now because it's still early non-conference games and we don't want to show anything, or if our guys just genuinely cannot get open, which is the scarier fact for me.
But the whole second half, they kept running a route where it was either a comeback or like the one where right before half where Mims
Little out
went to
route.
the out route, and those were open the whole second half.
Yeah.
It's like we didn't try those in the first half.
Right.
And there was a play in the first couple drives that they kept, what I thought was setting up was when the running back would go across in front of the quarterback and to the left, and then he was passing over the middle instead of throwing it to the running back off the left, and it looked like they were setting something up, and they just never did.
Yeah.
One of them was Stoops went in motion, and then they handed it off up the middle, just ran into the crowd. When it was looked like the play that Sermon ran at Ohio State, if you remember that one, where Baker faked the handoff and then kind of pretended to run and then threw it straight over to Sermon. It looked like they had that play twice on the first two series, and they just didn't throw it to them like they were setting it up for later, and they literally never went back to it.
Well, they may be setting it up and maybe
Right, that's
something under development they chose not to go to.
Yeah, it could be something too that they're wanting other teams to go look at film and say, hey, they do this, but not add the wrinkle in where you go over the top to the tight end or swing it out.
Yeah.
But,
I think
that's a long season ahead. I mean,
it's a legitimate criticism to say that they didn't see early on something that was wide open, be it a weakness in their defensive scheme of Kent State or a weakness in their athleticism, that they had those out routes and those comebacks. But they did recognize it, and when they recognized it, they exploited it and did really well. So you can kind of glass half empty, glass half full on that. I'd like for them to recognize things sooner rather than later, of course. It's hard to know exactly what they're trying to do, if there was some scriptedness in this. There may have been some idea on their part of trying to find running back one, and they were really pushing the running game to determine who that was going to be. And I would think that we've seen very clearly that Gray is not running back one, echoing what Connor was saying earlier. Is that
it's
unanimous
Major.
in this group that
It has to be Major.
that's
It should be.
Major?
It should be, but it kills me because there was the play, was it in the fourth or late in the third, where he broke the...
It's either late in the third
He
or
always
early.
breaks a late run and makes his statistics look good.
Yeah,
Because
but-
I'm looking at it right
yeah,
now,
yeah.
he has 7.1 yards average carry, and Major has 7.6.
Yeah,
But I turned him-
44-yard
that's
run.
where that's
Right.
where that
Great.
conversation always pops up.
But I turned to Max and I said, and he recognized it too, he's not fast.
No.
There was no breakaway
No,
there.
no.
He was getting caught by several guys and he knew it.
And it is the perfect, and you've talked about it multiple times. It's the perfect. There's one guy in the hole. You make one cut and you go, and that's all he
And
can
he found
do.
that one
is all
seam
he
on
can
that
do.
one run for 44 yards.
Anything
And it's
else
the
is
same
out of his
cut, too.
wheelhouse.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just he legitimately has a one-cut move,
Right.
Yeah.
and that's what he's got.
Major's got a lot more dynamism in him. He can change it up. That was a great touchdown run by him.
I thought he hit the juke stick from the PlayStation or
Yeah,
Xbox.
yeah, no
He
kidding.
went straight sideways,
Well, I mean, that's
right
what
around
yeah,
that
I
guy.
told Christian, I was like, that's one, like, you make the move and, like, you out loud say, oh, damn, like,
Yeah.
look at like, that guy, like, man, you missed, dude. Like, that was, I mean.
That was a
it
sweet
beautiful.
move.
And then, but he's got power, too. It's power on top of
Yeah, when they
finesse.
needed it again,
Right.
they put him in for the power play.
Right.
So, I mean,
Right.
They recognize
he's
that.
a package back.
It'll be interesting to see, but I'll bet you I'll go on a limb. I'll say that I think Major gets the start against Nebraska.
I would go to say I don't know if he gets to start until we get into conference play. After what we saw from Nebraska tonight.
I mean, Keywan Jones was
That
still
could be that,
starting
too.
over Adrian Peterson for like 8 games of that
But I mean, that's
season.
what's crazy. Like, but last year even, Brooks was back. Brooks was healthy. Gray started every game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't know.
I don't know if it's a DeMarco
I was
thing,
thinking of this on
like-
the walk back from the game. Is it that he knows the plays so well and he impresses them so much in practice? Does he know and does executes the blocking schemes? What is it about it that gets them infatuated with him to a degree
Right.
that they want to start
Damn,
the
make him a
guy?
GA or something. Like,
I don't know what it
he
is.
can't
It's
block.
crazy.
No.
He's not a good blocker.
Yeah,
Well, and it
that
killed
was
me.
funny.
There was one time I told Connor that Eric Gray in the NFL is distinctly a third down back. He is that specialist guy, third down, 3rd and 8. You put him in, there's a chance he gets a draw play, but normally he's running a route. And on like 3rd and 9, they took Gray out to put Major into block. And they ended up handing it off to Major, and he ended up getting the first down. So that worked. But it's just so weird to me that like how you would think he would be used as a receiving type back. They're
Not
even
yet, at
attempting to
least.
use it.
Not
yeah,
yet.
at least not
go,
yet.
Go make him a slot receiver.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
Rotate him in and run 2-back sets and make him a slot receiver.
They did split backs out wide multiple times tonight.
But we never split
Barnes,
them out with
Major,
two-
and
with two
Gray.
backs.
No, we didn't. No, the only time we went 2-back sets was when we brought Drake or Farouk into the backfield, which was interesting.
Farouk, who's that?
Right.
Who that be?
Yeah.
New phone. Who this?
So, I don't know. Let's talk about our outlook for things going forward based on what we've seen now. 2 games in, I'm not going to try and update too much on this to be too pessimistic about it. But at the same time, it has to give you a little bit of concern that we're not where we want this team to be. Yet we did win handily tonight. I'm going to continue to say I think this team can be 12-0, and I'll go ahead and go on a limb. No, it's going on a limb to predict 12-0, but I think this team has the makings of something that can be that good, especially given the schedule the way it is. If nothing else, the Nebraska game looks a lot easier than it did before.
Man.
We'll see. I can definitely see how this team could get into a situation where they could lose. It's always interesting to see glimpses of what it would take for your team to lose. It's funny for like Alabama today. I don't think anyone going into that saw Alabama imploding the way they did. They narrowly get the victory, but they definitely could lose that game. Of course, we saw them last year almost lose 4 different games the same type of way. So you see this in this team. You see their weaknesses. They come down to reality, but I still think they've got what it takes to be able to carry the schedule if they continue to progress the way that they should. What are your thoughts on it, Connor?
I mean, yeah, I'm in the same place. Looking, we've won the first 2 games 78-16 against teams we should be beating like that, right?
Right.
So it's weird, like you said, like it's like this uncomfortable win relative to what we've said is an uncomfortable win in the past. I would have taken this 50 times against Tulane last year after what we went through in that game. So yeah, same place. 12-0, 11-1 is still in my kind of cards. Again, like you just said, I could see us kind of slipping. But I say that, man, our defense looks, I mean,
They look good.
God, they responded
They're
really,
solid.
really well tonight. And we gave up 3 points. It feels like we were in a position to give up more. But every time I feel like we were about to give up more, we get a stop or something would happen. We get the ball back. So I'm absolutely going to play the homer card, right? And I think we're definitely on the right track, especially in conference play. So I'm with Steve on this one.
What do you think, Christian?
I think there's a lot of room to grow, especially offensively, like we've talked about. The defense looks solid. I'm excited to see where the directions it's heading. I think it's only going to continue to get better. Like Connor said, we held them to 3 points. It felt like there was an opportunity for more, but every single time they rose to the occasion, they bowed their necks and they made the plays. So it was awesome to see that and really exciting as like a fan sitting in the stadium to actually see that for the first time in what feels like a very long time to get amped on a 4th and 1 when they make a stop.
That was a great 4th and 1 stop. That was
Yeah.
amazing. Stutzman he's killer.
Offensively, it worries me. I do think you're setting yourself up for an opportunity to lose if you get in one of these kind of shootout games where you have to go down the field and score. In the past, with Kyler Baker, if we had the ball left with 1 minute and 30 seconds left, there was little fear in my heart that anything was going to go wrong. Now, if you gave me the ball with 4 minutes left and 3 timeouts, I don't know if we could score. I really don't.
Yeah.
So if you get in one of those 1-possession games in the Big 12 that we might face, I'm pretty worried at this point.
That is interesting. That's a really good point. I mean, man, like the spoil factor we've had. We've talked about it before a lot on this. But the spoil factor we've had, even up until even last year, we had a little bit of that, right? And a lot of the close games we played in that we ended up pulling out because of some stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see how we respond in adversity and in situations where we may face a defining drive.
Right.
Both offensively and defensively.
Jay, what are your thoughts? Are you with us, Jay?
I am. I'm so concerned with the first half that I don't even know if I can visualize the season. Just the most ridiculously awful thing I've ever watched my entire life. And it freaks me out for what everyone else has said. The defense is still vanilla, and they're doing great. And they're holding teams to what we should be holding teams to. And so I think that can hold up. It's just the offense was so putrid. You're gonna run into a time during the season that your defense isn't going to be able to hold up like you hope they would. And you just have to hope the offense isn't doing what they've been doing, at least in this first half of this game.
I think that's a legitimate point. They've got to come along in a big way to get us to where we need to be to accomplish what we think we can accomplish. What do you think, Lucas?
I'm still on pace with 11-1. I think we'll have a game where it doesn't all work out, where the defense has a couple meltdowns or that gives up a couple big plays and the offense can't bring us back from it. But I mean, you can't complain at all about the defense. Last game it felt like we gave up a whole bunch of third down conversions, and it wasn't. It was 5 out of 15. Today, what was the stat for today? At one point, it was 6 of 11 in the first half, which didn't feel very good.
Right.
But,
And it's not great.
And they
but
missed one.
They had to
They missed
work
one field
hard.
goal, but they were never really in danger of scoring.
6
No.
for 16 on third down. Kent State
6 for
was.
16. I
0
mean,
for 1 on
that's-
fourth.
Pretty similar.
I mean, that's pretty similar. They played tempo in the first half.
I did like seeing that. I thought
and
that
then
was a good test
and
of
then
our
the second
defense.
half, they really kind of went away from
No,
it
they
in points.
realized they couldn't keep up
And
with
then
that.
once they switched quarterbacks, they just ran the ball out there towards
Yeah.
the end.
Yeah, and the bigger concern is 3 for 12 on third down for us.
Yeah.
tonight.
Yeah.
And we were in third down a lot.
And we were one of 6 in the first half, I think.
So
But the second half, we looked awesome on offense for a couple drives. It seemed like they finally did what Jay talked about earlier in the season. Is they took what the defense was giving them and instead of trying to force the run or force the deep ball, they went more the mid-range throws that were open, which is what I would like to see from the second series on. Like, first series, go out and try to establish whatever you can, but once that didn't work, maybe you do more take what the defense will give you. And it seems like we honestly didn't do that until the final drive of the first half when they threw the ball to Weiss. He didn't go out of bounds, but then they threw 2 balls in a row to Mims like we talked about earlier, and that was exactly what we needed to get down the field, and they threw the over-the-top ball to him.
It did
But
feel like
that might have been there earlier, and they just didn't try it. They just kept trying to force their way.
Is that the fingerprint of this offense though? And that Levy doesn't. It's like, did Levy feel like at that point, man, I gotta kind of this is how we need to run this offense?
To dumb it down a little bit.
Yeah, just like this is what we need to do right now, so we can make sure that we go into half not only with momentum but with points, and then before that it's like I'm trying stuff out.
I don't know. I would think at the end of the first quarter when you have goose eggs on the board, you start thinking
You're
about
still trying to open it up?
Yeah, you got to start doing something to get some points on the board.
That's
but
I feel that way
nothing.
too. That would be my disappointment that it's kind of strange. They waited until they kind of had to do it, and then they said, "All right, we can be in control." Almost like you go from, I know he is a left-hander, so I don't mean it this way, but you go from playing with somebody throwing left-handed, and you go, I'm actually right-handed, and you start to really throw your stuff.
And last week was the exact opposite. It was like 21-0 to start the game,
And then we slowed
And
down
then
to try
second,
things.
Second quarter, we did absolutely nothing whatsoever.
And it goes back to your point at the beginning, Steve, with just offensive identity. Like, who is this team? Does Levy know?
What
does
are they
Levy
gonna
know
do?
What the team is?
Yeah.
Does Dylan
What-
Gabriel know what the team is? Does the offense know what they are? I mean, we've talked about in the past as well. Bill, and everyone has. It takes 4 to 7 games for Bill Bedenbaugh to get his offensive line in order. So I mean,
And
when
we
it-
haven't had Wanye Morris, so they've literally been moving guys in and out of there.
So when is that?
trying to
when
figure
is-
it out.
When is that? Gonna
Maybe next
happen,
week he
right?
returns. Maybe next week
So
But if
it
we
starts to gel.
Let's say if we throttle Nebraska by 30, does that tell us anything about this team? I mean, Nebraska's lost to Northwestern, and now they've lost to Georgia Southern. I mean,
It's gonna
right.
feel if we throttle Nebraska by 30 and it's
A
I mean,
solid
if we beat them,
performance.
if we beat
There's
them
gonna be-
42-17,
There's
are
a-
we gonna be like, oh, this team is awesome?
well, there's a difference between throttling Kent State by 30 and the stuff we did tonight, and then possibly throttling Nebraska by 30 in Lincoln with maybe some stuff that we've mixed in that feels like, all right, like, you know, we found a couple things here.
Yeah, I think it depends in the fashion that you do it.
Yeah.
Because tonight there was multiple times where on offense it was abysmal. If we have, you know, if we win 42-17 or something like that, but we have drives that we actually get, you know, 30, 40 yards down the field and then don't end up scoring, that's different against Nebraska, where you're having a 3-and-out against Kent State is awful.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like we brought up the third down statistics earlier, a lot of times it was run on 1st and 2nd, have a 3rd and 8, and hope we get it and then not get it. So, I mean, as long as we're not doing that there and you still end up winning by 30, I think that makes everyone feel a little bit better that you're actually able to sustain a drive.
We can't be.
I mean, to take a quote,
Sorry, go ahead, Jay.
this is. I mean, there
Hold on, you're breaking up.
should be
Hold on.
You
more
need to
than
get out of the country,
yard.
dude.
You need to get into the city. You live in the city, buddy. Well, let's.
No, one thing real quick before we move on. You can't go into Lincoln and have the first quarter that we had going down 3-0 and expect it to be as smooth sailing as what you had tonight. Like, that won't happen. That crowd will be in it, and that team will be in it. It'll be a completely different story if you go and you do that first 15 minutes the way we did it. So,
Go ahead, Jay. Tell us your thoughts.
I'm not saying, you know, it's freaking Kent State. The offensive line, there is no excuse to run for 7 yards. I literally don't care who you are playing. I think it was 18 rushes for 7 yards. It was absolutely putrid.
Yeah, it was
I don't
bad.
even know how to feel about it.
It was bad, and I'll give you another point of complaint.
You haven't
or
talked about the
worry.
second half at all, though. Really, you just keep going back to how bad the first half was.
That's true.
I just think the second half they just had a major butt chewing in the locker room and a little come to Jesus moment, and I don't know why you would need that. Maybe you weren't hyped up for Kent State or whatever, but I feel like the talent disparity. It shouldn't even matter if you're hyped up or not.
I don't know if the talent disparity is as big as you like to think it is, though, that we'd like to think it is, because they have some very talented people at Kent State. And they're
Okay.
you look at those are talented athletes. Those are not guys that are lower division guys.
Talented athletes compared to us on the pod.
No. Speak for yourself.
Yeah.
But no, those athletes are good athletes. There are guys. If you went down to that roster and looked at their depth chart, their top 12 or top 11 guys on each side of the ball would easily compete for starting jobs on most of every Big 12 team.
Yeah, you're right. There's exactly a half a player from Kent State that's going to get drafted next year.
No, that's not the point. But just having a lot of guys that are going to get drafted doesn't mean you should just be able to waltz in and beat somebody.
Julian
It
Edelman
does
played
when
for
you're
Kent
Oklahoma.
State. Never forget.
I think there's more talent there than you're giving it credit for, given what we saw. I'm not saying that they are a playoff contending team, but they are not Georgia Southern. This is a
That's
team
fine,
that
but it's 7 yards on 18 carries.
it's bad.
That is an offense.
It's very bad, and I'll give you a couple other things that we can complain about. One is running the ball out of the end zone. Billy Bowman did it one time. Was that
I don't
Got the
claim-
13-yard line.
and got to the 13-yard line. Another time he ran the ball and only got to the 31, which was a 6-yard net pickup. It was it's just dumb risk management. You can fair catch it and you get the ball automatically at the 25. Just do that. I don't understand that. That's really frustrating. I understand being aggressive, but unless you see something on film or unless you're just a phenomenal runner, and he's not, right? I mean, He's not the kind of guy that
not some specialist.
He's not some specialist who you worry about kicking the ball to. If that's not you, then you don't just run the ball to run it thinking that you've got just this deep threat associated with you.
Yeah.
So that was very frustrating to see him do that. The other thing that I think was something we can talk about, we can get a little, I don't know if this is going to be a bunch of olds shaking their fist at the sky or what, but the light show and everything was very interesting, very good. Flashing the lights, doing the different music. I think they need some work. I would advise, I hope that they take a hard look at when they do it and how they do it. One could argue it was a little overdone, and one could argue that it wasn't really well executed in terms of when you start and when you stop. At one point, they started right after the Stoops touchdown, and if that was a play that needed a review, we may not get the benefit of the doubt on things if it's going to flashing lights and we don't get to see actually what's happening because they turn the lights out. And then at another point in time, Kent State was given the ball and the play clock started and the lights are still flashing 4 seconds later. And it's like, well, if they're smart, they just hike the ball and probably get a penalty on us.
Yep.
15 yards. So I like what they're doing there. I think that's innovative. I'm interested in other people's thoughts. But I do think they could do a little bit better job of making sure they are turning it on and turning it off at the right times.
It's not hard. Like,
right.
you could get.
Well, it seems to be. Go ahead.
You could get one of 5 of us up there, and probably within a few hours, figure out how the hell it works. And they've been practicing.
Right.
They've been doing it.
They've been doing it
like for the past
a bunch
3
of
or
nights.
4 weeks.
Yep.
Like, the light show's awesome. Please do it. Looks great for recruits. It's a good stamp.
Gets the fans going.
Yeah.
Gets the players going.
Yeah, gets the players going.
Kept me more engaged. Kept Nora engaged. Like, it was awesome. You're right. Like, into the third quarter, you're doing it to a. What song was it, Lucas?
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's talk about the song. So Oklahoma Breakdown.
Oklahoma Breakdown is a Mike Hosty song.
And well, no, I think Toby Keith sang it tonight.
Yeah, but it's a Mike Hosty song, who is a Norman resident, who plays at the deli every Sunday and has for as long as I can remember. And for
Kind of
some
an
reason,
insult.
they played.
It's a massive slap.
They played a Toby Keith cover song in the wrong key and it's the wrong tempo, and it sounded horrible.
It did.
It's a great song, and if they just played the actual Mike Hosty one, it would have been fantastic.
My criticism is everything you just said, and then extending it more to say it wasn't something to get us fired up.
Right.
And I know this isn't a game or a position in the game we necessarily need to get fired up, and maybe they were planning on that. But I fear that that's going to be the new ongoing thing, and that will not get me fired up.
Agreed.
That will not get me going.
Going into the fourth quarter.
Going into the fourth quarter, that we need a fan base that's fired up.
Right.
It's kind of, to me, what troubles me is it's an encouragement to the fans who are sitting around waiting for the video they sent in of them singing, and they're going to be on the big Jumbotron screen. That's irritating to me because that has nothing to do with the football game going on.
Yeah, well,
it's a
like
distraction.
and Lucas said, like it may get some of us fired up, but more importantly, is it getting the players fired up or the recruits? I've just been on Twitter and I saw so many recruits were coming this weekend. We had a decent amount of big guys here tonight, and at that moment I can only wonder what they're thinking. And just hearing this song that they've never heard before, it might have a legendary Oklahoma kind of status, but to those guys, they have no clue what it is.
Right, and it's not a tradition.
Right.
They ask around and they say, is that a tradition?
is this
No,
a
it's
thing?
not a
Yeah.
tradition.
Tim, this might be the first time of it, but remember the years when they would bring former players out and they'd run a little highlight package, and then Roy Williams comes out and fires a crowd up, or Bosworth or whatever. What happened to that?
Yeah.
That was a two-year thing.
That wasn't the greatest thing of all time, but it was.
It was
Better than that.
stronger than this.
Yeah, it was something that got some people going, and
Right.
at least you got to see a different player every game come back. I mean, Tommy Harris comes running out.
Right.
I mean, that was cool.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of a miss. And you ask how hard it is, Connor. Apparently it's pretty hard. Because what's hard is the announcer can't figure out what the hell he's doing.
Our announcers.
He's always been really good, but he needs to understand we're running tempo. And he can't be talking through the entire
Snap and play.
snap and play. Jay, you trying to say something?
No, I'm not trying to say anything.
Oh, okay.
He's making a lot of racket.
Hearing some racket there. So, no, he talks through the play. And so 2 complaints there. One is we all see what's going on. We don't need to know the down and distance and everything else that's happening in front of us. We see it. 2, don't say boomer. We
God.
don't need that. That's just dumb.
He just started doing that.
No one responds to that. I don't know if that's some new thing that they're some
up.
organized thing. We don't need you to say boomer.
It's
And
bad
we're
enough
gonna
when
say
Chris
sooner.
Plank does it.
Yes.
Dude,
Yeah.
if I see that guy on the f***ing street,
Hey,
please bleep me. I'm sorry. If I see him on the street,
you're not going to do anything.
words will be had. Words will be had.
I'm not going to bleep you.
I apologize.
I'm not going to bleep
Don't
you.
bleep it. Yeah.
We're leaving it in.
Yeah. For
He
everyone,
is irritating.
For everyone's just, I apologize.
Well, he's
I don't
irritating.
Like Chris Plank. He's super irritating. He's always behind on the stats that he delivers.
Oh, yeah. The scores are always wrong.
This is not an airing of grievances moment, but since his name got brought to the table, I thought I would just give my 2 cents.
You brought his name to the table.
Jay,
But okay.
Jay can't bring anything to this conversation because he didn't go to the game.
Jay wasn't there.
He wasn't.
How were the
That's
commercials,
not
Jay?
fair.
How are the,
Yeah,
how
why
are
were there
the
so many
light-
commercials?
How are the lights in the commercials?
Crap. All you could see on TV was like darkness and like some weird flash of light. You really couldn't see anything.
I
There-
got some text messages that said it looked
Yeah.
pretty weird on TV.
There was a clip too that I was laughing with Connor. The ref was trying to make a call and they kept doing the light show and it looked like he was going to have a seizure from the light show that was hitting him in the face. It just was like dark, bright, dark, and he's like holding. I don't know what's happening anymore. Like he forgot what call he was supposed to
And
make.
did
I
we-
thought they were going to do the red.
Yeah, did
all
we go
red.
on
I
the
thought they
cheap
did the all
and
red.
didn't get the Crimson package involved? It's
I
literally
think we
just
might
white.
have. I think we might have.
Well, but the crimson was supposed to be just the ribbons. and
The ribbon
scoreboard.
and the scoreboard, which they'd have to take away all of the score, all of the stats to do the scoreboard, and I don't know how long that would take to
God
get that.
forbid they turn that
But,
off.
yeah, I'm
well, we
sure.
saw them
They're too
tonight.
scared.
And Lucas thinks that they screwed the team up, that they got the down and distance wrong.
Yes.
And said it was a 3rd down when it was a 4th
so
down.
What happened?
Yeah,
there?
the scoreboard said 3rd and 10 from the 5, and it was really 3rd and 5 from
No, it's 4th.
middle of the field. Well, no, the play before.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so we hurried up and ran up there and ran a play on 4th and 1, and I think they thought it was 3rd and 1 because every player on offense and all but 2 of the defense were still standing out there thinking 4th down was coming up, and they had stopped us on 3rd and 1 when really they had stopped at 4th and 1 and it was a turnover on downs. But nobody on our sideline was yelling at our team to come to the sideline like, "Hey, you just turned the ball over." And same with
I don't
Kent
know.
State.
I don't know if they were
And then
confused.
the refs ended up coming over and calling a TV timeout. And then
Right.
during the TV timeout, they went over to the players and said, "Hey, it's offense."
Well,
and
I didn't
defense are
see those
switching."
details, and I'm not going to dispute what you saw or that you're right. But I could see the fact that they're trying to wait around, thinking that when the player is down, but he gets up and lunges towards the 1st down. So I could see them thinking, well, we're not going to necessarily concede that this wasn't a 1st down, thinking that
This was like
there's a
30
chance they
seconds
get
of people
it.
just milling around thinking it was
Okay.
thinking it was going to be
a
4th
mess.
down.
Yeah,
When
So
a
they
4th down had
must
already
have stood out there
happened.
for a bit.
Well, it's funny. Yeah, me and Max both. Max, 13 years old. We both saw that it was 4th down. Knew it was 4th down. He was complimenting us on going for it.
Yeah.
And the guy on the field flipped the card to 4th down appropriately, but
Yeah.
that's a weird mistake if they made that mistake. And
And
this
that
shot against our
segues-
offense.
That segues to Javonte Barnes looking like a freshman tonight. Not that that's anything negative, but he didn't have the same pop and explosiveness tonight as he did last week. And
I'd agree.
going forward, I think you've got Marcus Major number 1, Gray is 2. I think you've got to put Tawee Walker 3 and Javonte Barnes 4 when it comes to conference play.
You think so? I think Barnes is in front of Walker, but maybe not.
He went out on the 4th series today, I think it was. I
Yeah.
think Gray got 1, and then Major got 2, and then I think they
Yeah.
went with Barnes.
Barnes went out earlier. Walker is so hard to bring down. He's complete load. I mean, he I don't know how many broken tackles he had tonight compared to yards.
He's a Mack truck.
Right. He probably had as many broken tackles as he did yards.
Which is what he did in the spring game.
He just can't find holes, or just he's not fast enough to make moves.
That's almost
He's
like
definitely not fast.
It's like it looks for contact.
Yeah, I think Barnes is going to be the guy going forward, but Walker's going to be interesting where they can use him. I mean, almost like a fullback or H-back type special guy, because he's a monster to try to tackle.
Until you have to, with the running backs, start Gray, save Marcus's legs, and let him be RB1 when we get to Kansas State. I mean, or even...
Yeah, but that's just one more game.
Well, or even Texas. Save him for Texas and let him freaking ruin their lives.
No. Kansas State is going to give us everything we want.
Everyone is, though. TCU's going to do the same thing in Fort Worth the week before you, Texas. So, it's going to be weird. I want to get past Nebraska next week. I would have loved to have... I say this, maybe not loved. It would have been interesting to see Texas win today and have us go potentially 5-0, 5-0 into Dallas, with Texas being the higher ranked team.
No thanks.
Oh, dude,
Let them always lose.
give me that all day.
I hope they lose 2 more games before they play us.
That's so short-sighted. It's so short-sighted.
Well,
Nah.
being a conference game, that'd be okay, but you don't want them to lose a non-conference.
I beg to differ. I always want Texas to lose.
I think it would have worked out better for
topic.
OU if Texas would have pulled it out today, but
I agree.
it's pretty humorous that they didn't. I'm glad we're not in Texas's position. I think we're stronger than Texas, and we're criticizing and having our problems with a pretty handy victory, or well-handled victory. They're having to console themselves about losing their starting quarterback. I don't know if we've got any confirmation on it being a collarbone or what.
Yeah, Jay, have you seen anything on that?
I have not.
So
Well,
that
and also that they couldn't get
looks
anything done in
bad.
the red zone today.
could not
They
get
just
anything
kept
done.
kicking
So
field
bad.
goals, and
And
they missed. That was a horrific miss. Off
So I think we're in better shape than
yeah,
them.
Sarkisian outcoached himself a couple of times in that game, but that's
But this is not a Texas pod, so we're not going
not.
to talk about that.
Yeah.
Well, we got Nebraska coming up. We got a midweek pod coming up. We're gonna recap our locks of the week once they're all finalized on the midweek pod. We'll have a different person that'll be remote on that pod, and we'll be giving our outlook for the Nebraska game. Some of us are gonna go to the game. I'm gonna go to the Nebraska game.
I'm going to the game.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Christian, you going to the
Christian's
game?
I will
gonna
be
go to the
there in
game.
Lincoln, Nebraska.
Jay, you gonna go to the game? Jay.
Jay's not
Sorry,
going to the game.
didn't hear my name.
Jay,
Jay,
you going to Nebraska?
I can't decide. I'm gonna check ticket prices and see.
Wow.
They're going to be
Well,
cheap.
They're
They're
going
getting
to
cheaper.
tank, so
Well, if you do, we'll tell you what section we're in so we can all sit together, including Lucas. You gonna sit with us?
Nope. I will be seeing Pearl Jam in other states.
You'll be in a different city. doing a
what team
different
is that?
thing.
The team that never loses.
Okay.
Okay.
Undefeated.
Undefeated.
Except in 2020, apparently, when the show got canceled.
Postponed.
Well, that'll be fun. We're gonna do that. We'll preview it. We'll talk about the outlook going on, and then we're gonna have a very interesting conversation after the first road game next week.
We're gonna get to see the whites busted out.
We're gonna see the white unis, baby.
I'm pumped.
Rough Riders.
I'm
Let's do it.
But no.
Burn those.
All whites.
No.
Speak that
Awful.
name.
Burn
All
those.
whites.
God.
Let's go the good whites. All right. Well, anything else to share? Anything else to talk about?
Got a lot of season left. I'm
We
pumped.
do. All right. Well, we'll be back
Oh,
on
wait,
Wednesday.
hold on. I have something to add.
All right. Go.
Georgia Southern had 642 yards of offense against Nebraska tonight.
Wow.
Wow.
Will we have 600 plus? I say yes.
I say no.
Nope.
We
I
haven't
say
mustered
no.
500 yet.
We probably don't need it, actually.
519. Lock it. 519.
519's the number. That's the over-under.
That's going to be in his picks then.
All right.
That is.
I love it. All right. Well, until next time, Boomer.
Sooner.
Sooner.